Another Delta Sigma Sorority Incorporated. Tracy has spent her last 30 years furthering equal opportunity for all. She's also the owner and designer of the Tour that creates inspirational cards to help people make positive connections using powerful words of expression. She served as a C-suite level of the Chief Diversity Officer, Director of Diversity, and Executive Director positions for the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Tracy has also obtained a Master's of Public Policy degree from Tufts University in Urban and Environmental Policy and Planning, an Executive Master's degree in Leadership Management from the University of Seattle, and a Bachelor's of Arts degree in Political Science for the University of Washington. At the UW, she pledged Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, Alpha Omicron chapter, and she, as I mentioned earlier, is a member of the Bellevue Alumni chapter. Tracy attributes her dedication to the furtherance of civil and human rights to the board, her parents, mentors, and her great uncle, Dr. George Edmund Haynes, co-founder of the National Urban League, who during the Black Renaissance period and beyond fought for equal opportunity. The next speaking voice you will hear will be from Sir Tracy Brown.
Wow, thank you so much. It's really good to be here this afternoon to celebrate Dr. Martin Luther King and this amazing health and wellness fair put together by the Bellevue Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta and the city of Bellevue. I'm always humbled, but feel that the message that I give hopefully inspires people to action. But what if I believe if Dr. King was here, he would say this: our work is not done. So again, welcome attendees, honored guests, family, friends, and neighbors. Thank you again, City of Bellevue, and my source of the Bellevue Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta. As I pondered what to say to you here today, I reflected, as many of you have, on how Dr. King personally impacted my life. Even though I was very young when he was alive and tragically died, I remember my parents and older brothers and sisters discuss his life, his work, and his legacy. Although I was young when he was a great man, I still recognize the sacrifices that he made. A man that sacrificed for his life, what he believed, equal access and opportunity for all. It's rare to meet people like Dr. King who risk their lives for those and families that they believe that would benefit humanity. Advancing humanity reminds me of a quote by Horace Mann that states, "Be ashamed to die unless you have won something for humanity." If I believe that Dr. King was alive here today, he would inspire and motivate us to continue to fight for humanity, for equal rights, and justice for all. I also believe in the year of 2024, with all the advances in medicine, technology, civil and human rights, financial globalization, integration, that he would say, specifically, our work is not done. So I stand here today knowing that even though I cannot fill his shoes, I also reflect, learn, and strive to live his dream. My reflections are so vivid. They chronicle the past and present civil rights and the preferred future of equity and inclusion. In those reflections, I see myself and my ancestors, the stolen ones, planning and organizing and running for freedom. I also see those same ancestors risking their lives as they sought out houses with lit candles and windows, reported pattern quilts with directional safety symbols, underground pathways, a friendly face rowing a canoe along the river to pick up and drop off passengers, all along the Underground Railroad as they made their way to freedom. With friends of a friend, guiding them, housing, feeding, and clothing them, and risking their lives, strangers, yes, strangers, but also brothers and sisters who did not look like them, but nonetheless risked their lives for what they believed, that all people were created equal. For them and their sacrifices, and for those of you today, we are eternally grateful. What an act of humanity to love one another so much that you sacrifice your very life or something that is precious to you. There are many who engage in small acts of courage to further civil and human rights for all. We should applaud those people too. As Dr. King would say, if I cannot do great things, do small things in a great way. As my reflection continues, I see myself on the steps in front of the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C. on August 28, 1963, along with 250,000 people awaiting a young minister to deliver a speech that would change our lives. The March on Washington was about access to health care, quality health care, education, representation, housing, and jobs, as well as to end the call to racism and segregation in the United States. In my reflection, I could see myself so vividly listening to the words, "Do I have a dream?" speech. As I listened to the speech, I began to cry, smile, and was inspired and had hope. I remember saying to myself, wow, isn't he amazing? I was inspired even more. Who could resist his humanity? Who could resist his call to action? What must we do to fulfill his dream? Who could resist the words that he shared with us that day? How many of us are willing to sacrifice the furtherance of civil and human rights for current and future generations? What we do know and have seen, and that many continue the legacy of the stolen ones of Dr. King. They continue to plant shade trees of equity and inclusion, trees in which they would never sit. Those shade trees are the acts of courage and self-sacrifice for their families, neighbors, and future generations. Those shade trees manifested in the civil rights laws and statutes. I have access and opportunity in which my parents and past generations knew they would never experience, but nonetheless, they risked their lives for me and others to further civil and human rights. The debt is to continue to plant shade trees of equity for current and future generations, as those who came before us, who risked their lives, property, and freedom. We must not let them down, or their sacrifices were in vain. There are many who would say that equality is not an issue today. It's an issue of class. Class is definitely an issue, but so is equity on the basis of one's protected status. Many of us have witnessed and our personal experiences of injustice on the basis of our race, color, religion, national origin, sexual orientation, gender expression, marital status, age, disability, and other protected groups. Again, if I believe that Dr. King were here today, he would say, our work is not done. Regardless of the social determinants of health, institutional framing, accepted in public health and around the world, that racism is a public health issue, and with the advances of medicine, our work is not done. Because there are still racial and gender health disparities, many cannot afford quality health care. And it's filled with biases that creates poor outcomes. We have infants and women dying during or within the first year. For Black women, it's 3 to 5 times more than any other group. And regardless of advances in job opportunities, our work is not done. Because there are still people who are not hired, promoted, let go, because they spoke truth to power regarding a lack of equal opportunity. Such retaliation prevents people from taking care of their families, and research reveals there's a negative in physical and mental health behaviors on their outcomes. And regardless of advances in financial sector, our work is not done. Because predatory lending still exists and targets people on the basis of their protected status and takes away their dream homes, obliterates their wealth, and many people are denied housing on the basis of their protected status. Regardless of the advances in transportation, our work is not done. Because there's transportation inequity, it continues to displace people and disinvest in gentrified communities. Regardless of all the beautiful homes and the smart growth, again, our work is not done. Because people are still turned away on the basis of their protected status, communities are still redlined and devalued, and we have a high rate of hopelessness, especially in the Black and African American community. Regardless of the groundbreaking Brown versus Board of Topeka, Kansas case that led with all deliberate speed, as they say, there is still inequality in public education. Our work is not done because students are still treated differently and are harassed daily and denied quality education in these schools around the country on campuses because of their race, their color, their skin, national origin, sexual orientation, gender expression, and other protected characteristics. And regardless of the 88 laws as amended our work is not done because civil and human rights of individuals with disabilities need to be protected so they can receive accommodations they need to access and thrive our great land and live self-directed lives. And finally, regardless of civil rights and statutes, our work is not done because there are those who are working to weaken, and in many cases abrogate democracy and civil and human rights here in the United States. So our work continues. As I envision an inclusive preferred future, I reflect on a quote by Dr. King that says, "We must learn to live together or perish together as fools." So what will we do to continue his legacy and not live as fools? In order to make a difference, you don't have to do great things. Just engage in small acts of courage and do the right thing as circumstances present themselves. King says, if you can't do great things, then do small things in a great way. I believe we can start by beginning to look at our sphere of influence and discuss with our families, neighbors, peers, co-workers, supervisors, and representations to truly see each other as brothers and sisters, friends of a friend, who contributed a lighted pathway toward equity and inclusion. As I conclude, is there a candle lit in some aspect of your life that is a beacon for others? What about ourselves? Do we need to examine to contribute to equity and inclusion? And what civil rights laws need to be protected and strengthened? Because injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. How will you continue to educate the current and future generations to continue the fight for equity and inclusion? What words will you share with those who grow weary and want to give up? As part of my closure, I'd like to share with you part of a speech not given by Dr. Martin Luther King, but from our former president, Teddy Roosevelt. This is an excerpt from the speech of Sir Rowland, and in my opinion, it describes aspects of how we should understand and embrace the equity and inclusion battle we are in. The war that we must win to survive as a nation. When you are weary and tired from the work, embrace the man in the arena. It is not the critic that counts, nor the man or the woman who points out how the strong man stumbled, or whether the doer deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man or the woman who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes up short again and again, because there is no effort without error or shortcoming, but who does strive to do the deeds, who knows great enthusiasms, who great devotions, who spends their life in a worthy cause, who at best knows the end of triumph of a high achievement, and who at worst, if they fail, at least fail by daring greatly. So that place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat. What is your dream? How will you continue the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King or create your own? Thank you.